Hello, welcome to Launching the Pilot. On this special episode, I'm talking to actress Annette Andre. We talk about her book of memoirs, talk about her TV, stage and film career, and the many people she's worked with over the years. So just sit back and enjoy, ignore the idiot asking the questions and just concentrate on the answers, because that's where the good stuff is. Her memoirs are called Where Have I Been All My Life? I think there's a link on her website where you can buy the book at AnnetteAndreOfficial.wordpress.com. You can also buy it from Amazon. You can also go into a bookshop and ask them to order you a copy in. So there's no reason you can't get a copy. That's all I'm saying. And you can also contact me on Twitter at LaunchingThePilot or at LaunchingTPilot, or if you're English, LaunchingThePilot. And on Podbeam, you can find all our episodes, 177 episodes, where we talk about pilot episodes of TV shows, and you can download them and listen to them there. But you don't have to listen to them. If you just download them, that would really help. Without the listening, that's fine. And next week's programme, Back to Normal, will be Mrs. Columbo, and who couldn't wait to listen to that? That would be so good. Okay, enough rambling time. Let's get on with it. Hi, how are you doing?
That's better. I've never made a call before. This is great.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to look good.
It's nice and it's free.
And it's free, yes. I know. This is amazing. I don't know why I haven't used this. Anyway, it's good just to talk with you.
Well, thank you for talking to me. I'm sure you're a lot busier than I am. So.
I'm coming over. I'll be over in September.
All right.
Towards the end of September, and I'll be there till early December.
Yeah, because it was last September your book came out, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, I went over for that and a couple of shows, and I did a show at the Museum of Comedy.
Oh, right.
And I did one the year before too. I'm not doing one this year. But I'm going to be doing a couple of shows. And of course, I'm sure you know, but this year is the 50th anniversary of Randall And Hopkirk.
Oh, actually, I didn't know. It's terrible, isn't it? I should look that up.
Oh, yes, it is. It's the 50th in September.
All right.
It's the 50th anniversary. So we're doing a thing for that. There's at Elstree Studios, there's going to be an event.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that Rick Davey is organising it. He did one last year too for ITC. And this is a combination of ITC and the Randall and Hopkirk anniversary.
That's good. As if we'd record today, it's the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. So.
I know. I was going to say that too. I mean, here we are all in this great year. It's wonderful.
Yeah. They would have loved this technology we've got now.
I know. Oh, wow. Anyway, let's start, shall we?
Yeah, let's start. Yes. I just really a few questions about your TV work and stuff, if that's okay with you.
Yes, that's fine. That's fine.
Actually, I wanted to ask you first of all because a funny thing happened on the way to the forum.
Yes.
I was watching some clips on like YouTube, and it was the chariot chase.
Oh yeah.
And that looked so dangerous. There's no way no one got hurt. It's just so incredibly dangerous looking.
It was dangerous. A lot of it was done, of course, by the second unit, which is the part with all the stuntmen where they do a whole lot of it where you don't see the actors in it. They have doubles and things. But a lot of it was done by, a lot of the actors, including myself and Michael Crawford. We did a lot of the stunts ourselves, and Buster was out there working with them. He did things when he had to fall down. He actually fell down, and he did his wonderful thing, what Pratt falls they call them. And he was 85. It was his last film. He died the following year, a few months after we finished the movie, and he was quite frail, but I mean, up there working,
That is
and here he was falling down and with chariots running around him and everything. My God.
Yeah,
yes.
Because I was watching it, I thought, well, obviously it's not green screen. This is real. This is really happening in front of the camera, and it's
Yeah.
it's incredible.
in the chariot race, which I've got in the book, so you would have read it, the chariot race where Dick Lester decided they could see into the chariot, and they took the stuntman who was in the bottom of the chariot, sort of crouched down, driving the horses. God knows how they did it, but they did. If we were in them, I mean. And we were. And so I was behind him, but they said they wanted to shoot from the back on this particular shot. And did I think that I could drive the horses? And I was a rider. I used to ride a lot. So I said, yes, very cavalierly. Yes, of course I can. Absolutely. Got no problem. I've got 2 huge greys pulling a chariot. So I start off with no stuntman in the thing with me, just with me, and Michael's already fallen out. And we take off, and we're in a wood. I mean, trees everywhere. Well, the horses don't take long to realize that I am just not strong enough, and I don't have the knowledge how to drive a chariot. So they thought, whoopee, and they took off.
That's a lot of horsepower, isn't it? two horses.
It is. I mean, fast, I can't tell you, and they're huge horses. Traveling, and trees, I thought, and there was a tree ahead. I thought, this is it, they're going to split here.
Oh,
one's going to go one way and on the other, and I'm dead. But at the last minute, they swerved together and took me around. And we're still going, and I had no way of stopping them, absolutely no way, until I heard horses, other horses, and sort of glanced around, and there were stuntmen on horses riding up beside me, and one of them called out to me, don't worry, we'll stop them, and he got to one of my horses, and leapt from his saddle onto mine and stopped them. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened. And we took a lot of chances in that. There were other things too, climbing up and being dragged up in the scene where Michael's rescuing me, and in this high thing that was built with nothing to hold on to except my hands. And it was hot, and I'm spinning, and I nearly passed out, and there was no net underneath me, nothing. So,
yeah, I was watching that bit as well, and I thought, because when I read your book, it says, oh, no harness, no nothing, just your hands. I thought, how could you do that? Just hold on.
Yeah.
It's just, I suppose you didn't have a choice.
I had to get the shot. I had to do it 4 times because Dick wanted me to look down and smile at Pamela Brown, who was going to sort of kill me. And she's looking up and smiling, and I'm saying goodbye. And if I look down, I have no head for height. So I looked down, I became so dizzy. And then I had to hang on. I wasn't sure if I was going to reach the top. I almost didn't. So that would have been splat on the ground. I mean, there would have been no more Annette Andre, that's for sure.
Maybe that's the movie where Michael Crawford's got his passion for danger, because he used to do loads of dangerous stunts, didn't he? For
yes, he did. Yeah. But he was always like that. He'd done a movie or a couple of movies before. He always did his stunts, and he did them on television too. But so that he just thought that was great. So between us, we had quite a good time. Little did we know just how dangerous it was. Anyway, there we are. We survived, and we're still here.
And there was a good working set, was it? I mean, so many famous faces in there. I know in your book you say you didn't really take advantage of everyone who was famous on there, but to talk to.
Oh, imagine me. I mean, I'd done films. I had done some couple of really good films, but not an international movie. And this was big with all those people. You can imagine how I felt. Here I am young, and with people like Zero Mostel and Buster Keaton and Phil Silvers and Jack Guilford. I mean, it's an actor's dream.
Yeah, that would be a book on its own, wouldn't it? That movie, I think.
I know, absolutely. But the terrible thing was that I loved to play comedy, and I'd done a lot of comedy in my previous work. So I said to Dick Lester, oh, this is wonderful. This is when we started shooting. This is wonderful. I've got all these wonderful people, and I'd been watching them work. And I said, oh, I'll be able to do things. I'd like to do such and such in a scene. He looked at me and he said, you'll do absolutely nothing. I said, what? He said, nothing. I said, but, we had that little bit with 0 that I'm going to do. I could do this. He said, nothing. He said, you are a virgin. You're a courtesan. You've been trained to be just beautiful and gentle and lovely. And that's what you're going to be. And I'm working with all this talent. And I wanted so hard to join in and be part of the comedy, and I couldn't. I had to sail through. It was very funny, but I did get a chance in the chariot race and things. I was able to do a bit there.
Yeah, it was a big film as well for its time, so really.
It still is. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's one of the classics. I was with some people the other day who said one of my favourite movies is a funny thing happened on the way to the Forum.
Yeah. It's strange how some things remain, isn't it? Other things just fade into memory.
Absolutely, yes. Like Randall and Hopkirk.
Yes, it's still up there.
I know. Who would have thought? I mean, we're talking about 50 years ago. Things were very different to the way they are now.
Yeah.
We just went in, we did the series because we wanted to work. And I enjoyed it because I loved the 2 boys, and we did have a good set. We did that and enjoyed it. It was hard work, but we enjoyed it. But, that was it. Then after that, we went on to the next job or whatever it was.
Yes.
We had no idea that we'd be still alive, as it were, in the world today.
Yeah,
even people over here in America, there are people, they don't know Randall and Hopkirk. It's hardly known over here. But they do know The Prisoner, they know The Saint, they know The Avengers, a couple of Blake Seven, some of them know Blake Seven. And who would have guessed? It's us, it's amazing.
There was another programme you were in, I think it was called Adamant Lives.
Yes, Adamant Lives, yes.
And that's, I didn't know about this programme, so I started watching it. I thought, this is good. But this is one of the ones the BBC wiped over the tapes or something, and so you haven't got all the episodes there, because at the time they just didn't think to keep stuff.
Yeah.
So I've started watching that one now, so that's a good one.
Oh, good, yes. I don't remember a lot about it. I remember Gerald, and I remember Juliet Harmer. Yeah. She was Adamant Lives, wasn't she?
Yes.
Juliet, yeah.
And I remember him talking about it, saying that they would rehearse some of the lines, but none of the action. You just go.
Yes, just go. Oh, we did that a lot of things. We'd have to, of course, run the lines and things, but usually just amongst ourselves. We didn't really rehearse. Some things I'm remembering we did rehearse. We actually rehearsed it, and then we went in and shot it. But that was not film. That was tape.
Yes, that's right.
And they ran tape. It's very hard for me to remember all this now. But
I was wondering how you managed to get through the whole memoirs.
It was tough. It took me quite a long time. I mean, over a period of some years that I started gathering together the information and looking up stuff. And of course, I'd lost a lot of things. I didn't have any scripts left because with moving and stuff, you start clearing out. And I thought, I don't want that script. I don't want this. Had I known and kept some of those scripts, my goodness.
The memorabilia factor alone would be worth a bit, wouldn't it, now?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. But also for memory, remember who played in it and who did this and who directed and everything. It would have been good for that. But no, I managed to get a lot of memories back. And my diaries were useless because all I put in my diaries was the time of an appointment or meeting someone for lunch. And then I'd think, who was that? I don't remember who that was. So it was, they weren't all that helpful, all my diaries.
And there'd be a lot of lunches, I'd imagine. Going through.
Quite a lot of lunches and dinners and drinks here and there. And then, but, meeting people too for interviews.
Yes.
And I remember meeting a director. I don't remember. But in my diary, I met a director called Nicholas Ray, who is one of the top directors over here. And I would have loved to, obviously I didn't work for him, I didn't get the job, but I have no recollection of what I went to meet him about, what it was or anything. I didn't write it down.
That's just
That's stupid.
Just the passage of time, isn't it? I barely remember what I did last week now.
Yeah, I know. Yes.
Sorry. One of your earlier TV shows was a program called Whiplash.
Yes.
With Peter Graves, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this one either. It seems an odd concept to me. It's a western set in Australia with an American lead.
They were trying. You see, Australia was very new to television.
Yeah.
I mean, we did that in 1960, I think, and I don't think we got television out there till about 1955. So it had only been television, it had only been going about 5 years when they did that. And in that time, we started out not knowing a darn thing about it. And I was cast quite early on. I won a competition and with it, I won a year on a television show as a sort of co-hostess. Just this terrible little thing, I remember. It was dreadful, but it was work, and I was on television for a year. We were learning all the time. It was all live. I mean, we had no tape or anything at the time. So it was all live. Sets would fall down, chairs would fall over. I mean, it was ridiculous. And then I was cast in a little serial. I think it was only about 4 episodes, but I had the sort of lead in this little serial, which was a short, I think it was only 20 minutes each episode or something. And that was all live. And you had to learn how to, unlike stage, unlike theatre, where you walk in and you have your marks where you're going to move to and things like that, but you have you can move about a bit. Well, in television, particularly then, the cameras were huge and not very movable. So you had to hit that right spot every time you did it. You know, the rehearsals, you'd go past the spot and they'd say, I can't see you, move back.
Yeah, I imagine after the cameras and all the cables and everything, there's very little room for the actors to fit in there.
Absolutely, and they were big and they were heavy, the cameras, so they couldn't just move in quickly or move around to get you, you know, that wasn't. So you had to, so it was very technical and you had to act at the same time. So it was an amazing learning situation. You learned all the techniques, what to do, how to get out of a crisis, and people forgot their lines and you had to know how to deal with it. I mean, it was quite something. I was rather glad to have been in on the early part of television out there.
So it's quite an education, I'd imagine.
It certainly is. And when you talk about Whiplash, well, that was the first filmed television series that they ever did out there. And it was a British, Australian, American production. So they had to have actors from, you know, each country, particularly America. And Peter Graves was the draw. They had to get somewhere where they could try to sell it abroad. You know, which they did.
Yeah, because it runs just like a western, but then you'll see an emu. You're thinking, oh, well, that's weird.
I know. But then, you know, in Australia, they had to have postal services.
Yeah.
This was Wells Fargo, or a type of Wells Fargo out there.
Yeah.
And
it must have run parallel to what America had to do at the early days.
It did, yeah. It did. It was just a bit later on in Australia than America had started earlier. So, you know, and we had bush rangers, which were the equivalent of the what did you call it? Cowboys. What are they called over here? Gunslingers.
Oh, right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we had bush rangers out there. Same thing. You know, they rode horses, they had guns, they killed people, they robbed places, they did all of that. It was and the countryside, Australia's terrain is very similar to a lot of the terrain over here, and particularly California. A lot of it is very like California, but then we've also got cooler places which are a little more like the East Coast, not the huge snows and fierce cold that we get on the East Coast, but cold and wetter than other parts of Australia. And then we have tropical jungle way up the top. I mean, it's got everything over there. It's got some snowfields, and it's got desert, and it's got sea, and it's got, everything that America has.
Yeah, a vast range, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So it made sense really into making that series, and it was great fun. I loved every minute of it. I thought it was wonderful. And filming, there again is a different technique. So we had a lot of things that went wrong. The poor actor I was working with, who got shot with the blank cartridges.
Yeah, it's in the book. Yeah, I did read that.
Yes, I know. I mean, I nearly I couldn't believe it. I'm standing next to him and he's on the floor. Ooh, that was poor Joe. I mean, he was a nice man.
And that's the episode you only get a credit in now, isn't it? I don't think you're actually in the actual episode now.
I didn't what?
You're not actually in that episode now, are you? You've got a credit for it, but you don't appear. Is that right?
No, I am. I am
you're in that one.
That's the one with the emus.
Yeah, is it? Yeah.
That was the one with the emus. I think it's that one or the other one. The one that I'm not in apparently was shown in Britain.
Oh, right, yes.
I mean, that was shown in Britain, which I've never seen. And to this day, I don't know what they all went on about, it being too torrid. I mean, we had all our clothes on. We did nothing except a few kisses. Yeah. Suddenly it was too torrid. It was unbelievable.
But it's okay for Britain.
It's okay for Britain, yeah, that's fine.
Because I watched 2 episodes, and the ones which featured you.
Yeah.
But if I didn't know it was you, I wouldn't know it was the same actress, because you play completely different parts. I thought it was really good.
Yes, well, I also was very young.
Yes.
And I had darker hair there, and I looked a bit different, and I had a slight Australian accent at the time. I never had a very heavy one, but I did have a slight Australian. It wasn't until I went to England, and I was at a party not long after I got there. I was at a party, and there was quite a lot of sort of upmarket people there, all sort of frightfully, hello, how do you do? And I had this man come and speak to me, and he said, oh, hello, I'm so-and-so, and I introduced myself. And he said, oh, jolly nice, yes, what do you do? And I said, I act. I'm an actress. Oh, jolly good. Oh, what's your accent? And I said, probably Australian. He said, from the colonies. Oh.
Oh, dear.
So I ran home and I instantly rubbed out my Australian accent. I spent a few weeks really working at it, and I got rid of the Australian accent.
I just got it. The Avengers. You were also in the Avengers, wasn't you?
Yes, I was.
Yeah,
yep.
with Patrick Macnee.
Yes, and that was one of the early ones. I think it was black and white.
Yes,
so
it was, yeah.
I think the next year it became colour or something. And with Honor Blackman, but of course I didn't have any scenes with Honor.
No.
They were just with Patrick. And I loved working with Patrick. Gosh, he was nice. But not nice. He was... I've watched it since. I've watched it recently, those scenes that I had with him. And they work really well because I felt very easy with him. And he had a lovely manner, and it came across working with him as an actress, an actor. And I think we just did very good scenes together.
Yeah,
but I got to know him. I got friendly with Patrick for quite a few years. He was a friend of mine and Sue Lloyd's, and he was one of the shyest, withdrawn men. He was quite different, not acting. Quite different.
I suppose because you think, oh, they're the star of this show. They could put on a bit more air and graces. They could make it awkward for the other actors coming in. But I suppose if they make them relax, it's all better for everyone.
Yes. Oh, yes. I mean, actors usually bend over and, you know, you're just actors, you work together. Some you like and some you don't, and that's personal, so whatever, you know. But there are some who do take an attitude, and I could mention one here.
It would be another Patrick, would it?
Oh, gosh, that name rings a bell. And yeah, no, I couldn't stand him. On the other hand, I've also looked at those scenes recently, and I thought, you know, they were pretty good scenes. We worked well together, and I think it was because I really disliked him so much.
Yeah, this was,
but it gave an edge.
This was Patrick McGoohan, wasn't it, in The Prisoner?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're not the first person to say he was quite hard to work with. So.
No, I know. And that includes men, not just women.
No, it was everyone.
Most women didn't like him. Most women didn't, and he didn't like women much.
Did you film that entirely on the stage, a sound set? You didn't actually go outside?
No, there were, in the very beginning, I think there was just a few. I mean, there could only have been maybe a half a dozen actors who went to Port Merion when they did all the stock shots they were going to work with during the series. And they did, I don't know how long it took, maybe a couple of weeks or something to get some shots and a few small scenes done. The rest of it was built on, where did we do that? Pinewood. Was it Pinewood?
It could have been.
Oh, usually you know more than I do.
I should know, shouldn't I?
Yes, you should. Because you're the ones who help us, you see.
Yeah.
And I think it was Pinewood. Or MGM. No, I think it was MGM. Yeah, they built the whole set there. And that was depressing too, because the set, you felt badly when you were on the set because you were enclosed and we were all wearing these uniforms and Patrick was being miserable and it really lent atmosphere, I think.
Actually, I was very disappointed with that episode because you didn't get a number. It just says the watchmaker's daughter.
I'm number 51.
Oh, was you number 51? Oh, I couldn't find that out anyway.
I've got a photograph. Do you want me to send you I'll let you have it free.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Send you a copy of the photograph where you see number 51.
Oh, that's great. I'm writing that down because I know that now.
Okay. I'll, if I forget after this, remind me.
Yeah.
But I'll send it to you, only don't sell it all.
No, of course not. The Prisoner is just one of those shows that doesn't go away either, does it? There's so much talk about what it's about, what's happening in it.
Oh, no. I had a conversation, I can't remember when, just in the last couple of weeks, over here in America. They love it here. They love it in America. And someone said, oh, you did this, you did The Prisoner, how wonderful. And oh, yes, and finally, this person said, I worked out what it was about, and suddenly it meant something really more to me, and I can see this, that, and the other. And I'm standing and saying, yes, yes. That to this day, I have no idea what it was about.
Yeah, I've watched it a number of times and still not got a clue.
I worked in it.
Yeah.
And I had the script, and I went to a couple of other actors, and I said, you've got to fill me in a bit on this. I don't understand. I want to know what I'm doing here. And they said, don't worry about it. We don't understand it either. And that was, one was Alexis Kenneth. Oh, he tried to tell me a bit about it. I don't think he understood it. And, Mark Eden was the other one. So I have no idea.
You didn't ask Patrick. So what's this about then, Pat?
No. No. He'd have had some put down for me. I know he would have said. Yeah. But on the other hand, he got a very successful series out of it.
He did. You could eat out free on just being in it, forever.
Oh, yeah.
You could dine out on that one forever.
Yeah, you could. You really could. Yeah. So.
Yeah, the interest in it doesn't wane away, does it? It keeps coming back, even when they try to remake it, which I don't know why they bother, but they do. So,
did they try to remake?
They
the
did.
Prisoner?
They did.
Prisoner?
Yes.
Did they?
Yes. There's an American version.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
I know about the Randall And Hopkirk one, which I thought was absolute. I watched a bit of the first episode and never watched it again.
yeah, yeah.
I thought it
For my
was dead.
for my podcast, we did obviously the original Randall Hopkirk, and we did the remake, and I thought the remake was okay, apart from they should have got actors. You know, get
Oh, it was
some
so they were
actors.
trying to clown about.
Yeah.
I mean, when we did it, we were very keen. The three of us used to get together and talk about the scripts coming up, and we knew Dennis very well, Dennis Spooner, and liked him, and he liked us, so he worked with us a lot. And the boys, particularly Ken, would come up with something occasionally that was quite funny. And we'd say, we love that. Let's try and keep that in. And yes, Dennis would say yes. The producers, I think it was Lord Grade. I think it was him that said, no, we'll have to sell it to America, and they don't like a combination of drama and comedy, which is ridiculous. So we kept on going, and we did get more comedy into it. But the comedy we got into it was lovely. It was just gentle laughs, and there was one episode that was really funny, I thought, where Mike is hypnotized.
Oh yes, yeah, I remember that one.
He
Yes.
wrote that one, and I loved that one. I always laugh when I see that. And then they come on to do this remake with two unfunny comedians. At least I thought they were unfunny. They weren't funny. And a girl. And I just thought it had nothing to do with Randall and Hopkirk.
It certainly
It was,
certainly didn't have the
it had the
charm.
music type. Yeah, it didn't have any charm at all.
No.
It really didn't. And many people, many fans I've talked to have all said, oh, we didn't like that. They shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I think maybe the original Randall and Hapcock was just ahead of its time in its format.
It was actually. I'm glad you recognise that, because it was ahead of its time. It was, bringing a ghost into it who communicates, and then having him throughout the thing had really, I think, only, not, I won't say only, but certainly hadn't been done much on television, not in a series like that.
No.
So I think that that was unique in a way, and then the bringing some comedy into what was a detective series, and yes, I think it was before its time. It did have elements there which were loved at the time, but loved even more now, I think.
Yeah, I think also what shines through is the chemistry between you three leads. It's just amazing that you can see.
Yeah.
It just spills out on the screen at you. It really does.
Well, that's good. That's good, because the three of us loved working together. I'd worked with Mike Pratt before in television and a movie, and I liked him very much. I really did. We got on well, and I loved working with him. So when I knew it was him doing the series, that really set me to say, yes, I'll do the series. But I didn't know Ken. And then I met Ken, and the two of them had become quite, friendly. And it was a combination that just worked like magic. I'm still in touch with Ken.
Yeah, he's still working away, isn't he? He pops up on TV time again.
Oh, yes, he's not working, though.
Oh,
He's
isn't
not
he at the
working.
moment?
He's not terribly well.
Oh, isn't he? That's a shame.
No. But we talk on the phone, and hopefully, I'm not sure that he would be able to travel to the actual event, Elstree. We would like him to. If not, I think he's going to do a television interview for it.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
He also done the afterword, didn't he, in your book, your memoirs?
Yes, he did.
Yes,
he did. Yeah, and had Roger do the foreword.
yeah, which is a nice touch.
It is, isn't it? I was very pleased at that. It meant a lot to me to have those.
Yes, it is. It's a nice bookend, if you like, for the book.
It is. Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, because of course you met Roger Moore on the Saint. Was that the first time you'd met him?
Roger.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd met him. Yes. And terrified. I was absolutely terrified. Because I think I did tell you in the book anyway, say in the book that I went into it really, really scared, because something I didn't mention is that people had always told me, oh, you're going to do the Saint, one of the film series or the Avengers, whatever. When you go in, you've got to do it in one take. They don't like doing more takes. And you're, oh, really? And they had me terrified.
Oh,
And then I get this director who is a monster. And my very first scene, which had a lot of words in it, my very first scene, he attacks me before I even start.
Oh my God.
Just as I started, I start saying something. He says, what's all that gabble you're doing? And he starts screaming at me. Apparently he had a thing about actresses. He didn't like them. He used to give them hell. So, Roger, that's when Roger came forward, had a little word with him, came back, took my hand and said, don't worry. It's going to be fine from now on, and I'll help you through it. And he did. And we were great friends all the years. We were great friends.
I've never heard anyone say an unkind word about Roger Moore. So.
Yeah. Yeah, Roger was a very special man. He was just delightful. And we kept up a friendship until, just a couple of years ago, really.
Yeah.
Sometimes my husband had known him too. He knew him too. And they used to, he and Roger and Michael Caine and a couple other people all had the same agent in London, Dennis Selinger. And they had a little sort of network, because people were scattered all over the world. I mean, one of them would be in New York, another one would be in LA, another one would be in Switzerland, we would be in London or LA or somewhere else. But through the phone, we kept up this network of jokes. And one would phone, usually to Arthur. You see, they'd phone to Arthur. It might be Roger or it might be Dennis or whatever, and say, oh, just heard this great joke from Michael this morning. And he'd give us, and they'd all die laughing on the phone. It was very funny. And terrible jokes, but they were very funny. And this went on for, a couple of years. This network of jokes going round between all these people. And me.
I mean, Roger was already sort of famous after he'd done the Saint, but then being Bond, well, that's a different level of fame, isn't it? That's worldwide, everywhere, every country.
Yep.
But I guess he didn't change much from the time you knew him, from when you first met him to when he became an international star.
No, he was always a lovely man. He was always a gentleman. Everyone liked working with him, and the crew liked working with him. He always, if there was any dissension on the set, usually Roger could step in and just very nicely calm it down, and people would relax again. And we had laughs while we were filming. Sometimes we'd have a laugh and they'd say, the director would get angry. We've got to do that again. Might be the third time.
Yeah, this is money. This is money we're costing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, of course, you went to work with him again on the Persuaders.
Yes. That was fun too.
Of course, Tony Curtis.
And Tony Curtis, whom I liked very much.
Yeah, that's
when I was working with him. He was different socially, but working with him was interesting.
Very professional, was he?
Very professional. I hadn't really expected him, although I should have, because he'd done some wonderful movies. No, he was, and very intense. Wanted to rehearse the lines and do, but also very conscious, unselfish when he was working with you. He always wanted to make sure, could the camera see me? Was the lighting good? All of that, which is, you don't get from a lot of people.
No.
So I was most impressed with him. But he was a different animal off the screen. He had this persona that Hollywood had built around him, and he felt he had to live up to it, and it wasn't as attractive as when he was an actor. was very brash and American and all of that. And I just liked him when he was being the actor because he was interesting.
Yeah. Yes, it's nice to hear how he's professional on set. Because you expect his Hollywood royalty, to be a bit, as you say, brash, but yeah.
Oh, yes. But no, most of them, if you're an actor, even if you get built up with this Hollywood glamour or whatever it is that they do, if you're a real actor, you'll come on, and once you start acting, you're an actor. I've worked with a lot of people. I mean, I've had a lot of good people that I've worked with, and both English and American. And apart from Patrick, and maybe a couple of others, but they weren't terrible. Most of the people were just actors. Even if you didn't like them very much as people, or they didn't like you, they were still actors, and we worked together.
Yeah, I mean, because you've done movies, TV, stage. You've covered all the range.
All the roads, and radio.
Yeah, and radio. Was there any sort of snobbery though between the theatre and the TV set? Thinking, oh, you've done TV.
There used to be a lot of snob, a lot, because theatre was the known thing, for actors. I mean, this was Shakespeare and real theatre. This is where you were a real actor. So when movies, of course, came into it, then the real actors would say, well, of course, it's a movies. They can do another take and they can keep on going. Not really true. It's a whole different technique. And to be a good movie actor, you've really got to be a good movie actor. You've got to know about cameras and voice and where to look. Whereas theatre, you've got to know your craft in theatre, and you've got to know how to use your voice. It's completely different.
Yeah, because I suppose the cameras zoom right up to you on a set, don't they? They can see everything you're thinking, more or less.
They also, yes, they can. And you do things that you're not meant to. There are some people who simply can't work on film. They're too big. They do too much with their faces or their hands or their bodies, unless it's meant to be, Yeah. There is a way of working with a camera. And I was lucky enough to know both techniques. And I think I dealt with them both quite well. But I loved theatre. I must admit that theatre was my first choice when I had it.
Is it like the instant response you get from the crowd or the audience? Is that part of it, or is it?
Yes, it's seeing the people there. It's knowing you're doing something about theatre where you can get really lost in it. It's not so technical. I mean, you haven't got cameras looking at you. You've got lights and you've got all that sort of thing. But you can be the person up there because you're doing it live. You're doing the whole thing. You're not doing sections of it. You're doing a whole complete story. And the people are out there, and you sense it. And you sense when they're not liking it. You sense when they are liking it. You get a lot of vibes from an audience. You get to know.
I was going to say, if you're doing a long run, does it get repetitive, or do you try to keep it fresh every sort of time you go on?
Well, I did a couple of longish runs. One was very long, 2.5 years. And that was a little unfortunate because it was just 3 of us in it. And the main actor was very well known and had done a lot of work, but he was older at this point. And we'd worked together before and worked very well. But when I went into this, he'd changed a bit, and he just was not flexible in his performance in trying to keep it fresh and trying to because the other actor and I used to say, oh, if we could do that in this scene, that would really change it around a little bit and perk it up. Because you learn as you're going through, you learn about you learn the characters, and you start to find nuances and undercurrents and expressions and moves that would just make it that little bit better. But Richard just was not able to do that. He wanted to stick to exactly the same performance every night. If you changed it a little bit, he'd forget the lines. And it became not pleasant working. And the other actor too, we were both unhappy. I did it, I did it for 2.5 years, but,
what's that? The show must go on, is it?
Yes, but, that's what I love about theatre. You can change it, you can work through it, and you can find other things to do. And you come out the other end and you've got a character that has been formed as you go through. It's just wonderful. I love that. I love that progression. And you can't do that in so much in movies because you don't have the time and you're doing it in pieces. You still do it.
Yeah.
And you get fabulous performances. But you've got to know what you're doing.
I suppose usually that's a take, move on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, this is what I love about your career, because I say you've done the Avengers, then you're also in the new Avengers as well. When they brought it back, you've got to do it again.
I know. Working with someone else. It was like was it there was New Avengers?
Yes.
And the New Saint.
Yeah, and you did Return of the Saint, yeah.
Yeah. And that's strange because, I knew Roger so well. I'd done so many with him. And then I worked with Ian
Ogilvy.
Ian, yeah, with Ian. And he wasn't Roger. And he was a different type. I'd worked with him before. I knew it, so that was all right. But I was so used to working in the Saint and with Roger, and we'd have jokes off the set and do all that, and and I knew how Roger worked. That working with Ian and yet doing the same thing was different. That was all right. We still did it. The same with the Avengers.
Yeah, I grew up on the Return of the Saint more than the original Saint. So now I've had a chance to go back, and I'll just see, this is why it's better.
Yeah. Roger brought.
He just oozes charm and wit out of the screen.
Right.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
Like he did his Bond.
Yes, that's why, isn't it? That's why they wanted him for Bond so early on, but of course they couldn't get him because of contracts and stuff.
But Roger. He said himself, "Listen, I'm not a great actor," and he wasn't. But what he was a performer, and he knew what he was doing. He was very professional, and he had this wonderful presence on screen, and dishy-looking man. But he knew what he was doing. He was good. He was very good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Effortlessly.
That's right. You're right. Effortless. That's a good word. Yeah. Absolutely. Very, very smooth. So he created those characters, which were excellent. Yeah.
So I also see you did a few of the soap operas. I've got Coronations. Crossroads. Sorry, Crossroads.
Crossroads, I did.
Yes, yeah. I have a bad experience with Crossroads, but
you did.
Yeah. But my mum named me after one of the characters. I'll never forgive her. She named me after Brian from Crossroads. I thought, why Brian? Why that?
Oh dear. Well, you didn't see the early days of Crossroads then.
No.
Oh, dear. Well, that was like when we started in Australia doing live stuff, and Britain had been at it a whole lot longer than we had out there. But when I went into Crossroads, it reminded me of those days because we did it. When it first started, I think it was on tape. I don't think it was live. I think it was on tape. But the sets were terrible. They'd close a door and all the wall would shake.
Yeah.
They were really cardboard sets. It was terrible. And then it got better after that, of course. And, it took a while, but it did get better. But it really was, a soap. And those days, the early days, it was really terrible. And one of the actresses in it, Sue, she's my favorite. She's my best friend, Sue Hansen.
Oh, yeah.
Sue was in it, and what was I saying? Now I've lost a train of thought. You see, this is what I do. I try. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, even she would say, she's funny when she talks about the early days, and she'd say, oh my God, you'd walk into a room and the chair would fall over, or I'd walk out of it and the door would fall off, and all that sort of thing. So
yeah, I suppose because they're on the budget as well, they couldn't do too many retakes. Just go for it.
Oh, you had to. You couldn't do. Yeah, you could do retakes on tape.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you didn't. Sometimes you ran it almost as a live production.
Yeah.
Early on, you did. So you couldn't cut it, I don't think. Or it was a big deal if you had to cut. I don't know. But it was always difficult.
I know there was lots of programs that made fun of, like the Crossroads and the wobbly sets, but I would imagine the acting would be quite hard because you're on there all the time. You've got to keep going line after line after line, and for a daily show as well. I think it was daily, wasn't it?
Well, it was. It was on 5 evenings a week, I think. Yeah. Crossroads.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it started as a half hour or an hour. I'm not sure. It ended up as an hour, but I don't know, because I didn't do a soap until I did that one.
Yeah.
I did do a couple of episodes, a few episodes way back, which I write about in the book, I think it was called General. No, it wasn't General Hospital. No,
it's Emergency Ward 10.
Emergency Ward 10. Yeah, that's right. I did about 4 or 5 episodes in that, and one of them they had a strike or something, and we had to do the episode live.
Oh no!
And we hadn't done live for years at that point. I was so nervous that I was lying on this sort of gurney thing, trolley thing, and I'm supposed to be a burn victim, so I've got all these blisters all over my face and everything and I'm lying there, and the trolley is going rat-a-tat-tat, because I was shaking so much at doing it live that the whole frame was shaking, and everyone started to laugh, and I had to go on. I mean, I stopped it. I calmed myself down and stopped it, but it was a little hair-raising at first because you could hear it jangling a bit, the bed was going.
And also, you did a bit of prison time, didn't you? Prisoner
Yes,
Cell Block H.
I did. Hated that. I absolutely hated that.
You went back to Australia, did you, to do some work?
Yes, I went back, took my daughter back to see my family and things. We ended up working out there for a while. And that was interesting. I did quite a bit of work while I was out there. But we did this Cell Block H not long before I came back to England. And I really didn't like it. I didn't like it because the whole studio was the set. And a bit like The Prisoner, it was a jail. And you couldn't help but take on the sense or the feeling that you're in this claustrophobic, grim, grey place. And I think it worked on some of the people in it, and some of the actors, because they were a bit grim and grey too. Not all of them, a few of them.
Yeah.
But I understood that because I only did, those few episodes. There were people in it who did it for ages. I don't know how they did, because I found it far too depressing. I really did. Whoa.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of people do. It's a steady paycheck coming in. You know what you're doing. Whereas as I've read your memoirs, your life was a bit from one thing to the other. You didn't really want to be tied down to anything particular.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to do as much individual stuff as possible, or rather different stuff as possible. I didn't want to be typed.
Because you didn't want to, the champions you were offered, wasn't you? The champions. You could have.
Yes. They thought.
You could have played. Was it Sharon? A nice exotic name.
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't get that. I don't think I would have liked. I liked Bill Gaunt. I didn't know.
No.
Stuart Damon, wasn't Stuart Damon? was his name, I think, the other one.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
I think it was. I didn't know him. I knew Bill, and I liked him. I'd worked with him several times.
Was it
Um,
Alex
I just had
Andre?
to do it. I fitted better with Randall and Hopkirk.
Yeah,
It was more.
because they were filmed at the same time, were they, as well? Around the same
No,
time.
I think that the Champions was a bit before
Oh,
us.
right, okay.
They were already, I think, almost finished or finished by the time we started. The other one that was playing at the same time was Department S.
Oh, yes.
Hmm. And Peter Wingard and Rosemary Nichols and the American Joel Fabiani, who was a lovely man.
Yeah, because there is some used to swap clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, well, wardrobe would sometimes bring things out if it was suitable. Most of the time, for me, and Randall and Hopkirk anyway, I had a couple of designer houses dressing me a lot of the time. But then, of course, you wanted, some ordinary stuff that was in the normal wardrobe, a coat or a hat, something or other, a skirt or something, which, of course, had probably been worn numerous times before in other things.
Yeah. But, it's very bright colours, though, wasn't they? They were, especially because it was
Well,
colour TV
I
now.
had a big say in my clothes. The wardrobe mistress knew me, and she said, "What do you think you would wear?" So she was good. She allowed me a lot of time, to make my own choices in the clothes. And she knew I loved colours. So yes, I had a lot of good colours. And a lot of fans bring that up about the clothes that I wore, that they always loved those clothes. So that was a good thing. I did too.
Yeah, it definitely lifted the series up a bit because the brightness of it just
Well,
helped.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I have people say to me now, people who've sort of come to it recently, who said, "Oh, the clothes were wonderful and this and that and all the hairstyles and the." And I am going to have to go in a minute.
I was just saying that I thought I've took enough of your time. I just say your memoir is Where Have I Been All My Life?
Yes, it is. Where have I been all my life?
And
With a foreword by Sir Roger Moore and an afterword by Kenneth Cope.
Yeah, and it's if you like the early days of like TV, and it's really an insight into all them, and it's an insight into like a jobbing actor, what they did and how they got on. And I think it's a great book. Yeah.
I think I've kept in quite a lot of stuff there that I think people and fans will like and enjoy and be interested to hear about. So, I hope people go and buy the book.
Yeah, it's really a who's who of that time as well. We couldn't get through all the names; it'd be too long. It's like
absolutely. Oh, yes.
directory.
I mean, masses and masses of names. Benny Hill.
Yes, yeah. Oh, we didn't even get to Benny Hill. They're fine.
Yeah. And it can be bought on Amazon, UK, or you can go into any of the bookstores in England and order it. If they haven't actually got it in, they will get it in for you. Places like Waterstones and, a lot of the other bookstores. I think almost any bookstore can actually get it in.
And you can access it as well from your website, can't you? I believe there's a link.
You can get it from my website, yes, which is Annette Andre official.wordpress.com.
Well done. Yeah, that's correct.
You can do that, and also from the publisher. But my website will take you to the publisher and be able to order it from there.
Yeah, I had a quick look on your website, and because you're an artist as well, and I was a little bit worried because when you get these pop stars who say I'm an artist, and you get a couple of splodges, but your artwork is brilliant. It's just breathtaking.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Because I've only recently put that up.
Yes.
And I'm very, very thrilled because someone has just ordered or bought a picture from my website, a painting. So I'm thrilled about that. I hope there's going to be more. I haven't got too many up there. They're not all for sale, but the ones that are, and I'm gradually, I'm working hard to try and get some more done, and ones that I like that I want to put up. And gradually feed some more up there and hope people will come on and perhaps buy some.
Yeah, but if people didn't even know your backstory, this is just good art. It's just,
Thank you.
yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Not at all. It's been a pleasure. Thank you,
Yeah,
Brian.
it's been my pleasure, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks very
All right.
much.
Well, I'll keep in touch on the, on by email.
Yes, yeah, I've got your email address there.
Good.
Yeah,
Yes, keep that, and we'll be in touch. And if I have any ideas or whatever that might be good for your website, I'll certainly get in touch with you and say, what do you think, or
yeah,
whatever.
absolutely no problem with that. Thanks very much for chatting to me today.
All right.
I'll let you
Thanks.
get on with the rest of your day. My day's just finishing, so all right.
Okay. You have a good time.
Right.
Okay, Brian. Bye-bye.
Bye.